have no idea how I'm going to do this video. No, I don't. No, I don't. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. Jim Sterling here, just talking to one of my cute boglins in my massive house that I paid for myself. I've got a very important video to make, so... Okay. So, my ownership of the website pogsforboglins.com has become a controversial sticking point, and I just want to say I have always made it clear that I was the president of that particular website, and I'm sorry if that was not made clear enough for you and that you didn't understand. By the way, huge thanks to the support and love that my fans have given me, that my millions of fans that I still have. Let's not forget how many fans I have and how grateful I am for the support they've given me. I'm not implying that their constant refusal to admit I did anything wrong is correct, but lots of them saying it. Anyway, I'm sorry about that stuff I did that I didn't do, because I've spoken to my legal team and they've assured me I've done nothing wrong. So I'm sorry for the nothing that happened. Okay? I'm sorry. I have lots of money. When we last left Evolve, and it seems the world had indeed left it, things weren't great. Turtle Rock's 1v4 multiplayer was, in many ways, the prototype of what we call around these parts the early triple access game, a model that would later be adopted by Star Wars Battlefront and Street Fighter V. As the canary down the mine, Evolve should have been a warning to others, but EA and Capcom had to make their own mistakes rather than observe exactly what happened with this poor little disaster. Evolve first raised cynical eyebrows by revealing pre-order bonuses before any gameplay had ever been seen, and it only got worse from there. A game more famous for its DLC than anything it actually did as a piece of interactive entertainment, the thing would feature not one but 2 season passes during its lifespan, an overwhelming amount of pre-order bonuses, and a ludicrous level of downloadable content, not to mention the vague promise of more monsters and hunters as the game continued. For a price. Perhaps worse than anything else though, when it finally came out after endless PR nightmares and after representing everything wrong with pre-order culture and content carving, it wasn't even all that good. I mean, it was okay, but like the early triple access games that would follow its ill-advised lead, it just didn't offer much. Most of its gameplay was rather dull as the hunters ran after the monster around huge maps, and while brief pockets of action could be fun, the repetitive, predictable nature of combat and overall lack of content made for a product with very little in the way of lasting amusement. And despite all that promise of more stuff to buy in the future, few people would stick around. In fact, one would say that promising that you can buy more stuff isn't exactly a great selling point. That said, the game sold pretty well when it first came out. That was despite the bad publicity, lukewarm critical reception, and slew of harsh criticism by customers and user reviews. But a good launch is no indicator of lasting attachment, as we've seen, and within a year, the game had shriveled up and more or less died. Servers were left threadbare, there were like a couple of hundred players knocking about at best, desperately, and most of the world had rightly forgotten about it. Turtle Rock, however, due to perhaps a need for money, a belief in the game's potential, or just good old-fashioned pride, refused to let it stay down, and the world was suddenly greeted by a dramatic new look for a game that had been quietly left as a historical footnote. Evolve is now in the beta phase of what it calls Stage 2, featuring a complete overhaul of its features and, most importantly, an all-new price tag of fucking nothing! Now completely free to play, Evolve Stage 2 has attempted to reinvent itself completely. Gameplay's been altered in an attempt to create faster and more action-oriented games. While there's still a fair bit of running around and chasing a single player, hunters are better able to pinpoint the monster and tend to find it much faster. For their part, monsters are now able to fight more aggressively and can defend themselves adequately even at the lowest level of their evolutionary tree. Each of the 4 hunter classes have had some abilities streamlined and can access unlockable passive perks, and Turtle Rock even went ahead and upped the graphics, redesigned the maps, and improved the user interface. quite a bit of muscle behind this. The game's cornucopia of DLC has become unlockable content earned in-game via keys that are rewarded at the end of each match. Those poor souls who actually spent all that money on the base game season passes or pre-order shite are now known as founders, and have been given a number of awards for their financial investment. At launch, founders received 3,000 keys, all past and future variants for every character they previously had access to, a massive weapon skins, and 4 animated badges for their player profiles. Ever the promiser, Turtle Rock has also pledged to continue supporting founders with more cosmetics and variants as time goes on. The result of this evolution has been interesting, to say the least. The most immediate response has of course been a surge of new players. It's gone from teetering on life support to being among Steam's top 10 played games. The player base has reportedly increased by 25,000%. To put that into perspective, that's 25 Battleborn players. Evolve's expected microtransactions are not yet implemented, meaning the game is entirely free and nobody's making any cash off it right now, but the boost in player base has been impressive for a move that I'd initially pegged as too little too late. Apparently it was neither. The critical fallout has been less fantastic. While the game's user reviews on Steam have been trending more positive since Stage 2's rollout, it still sits with a mixed reception, and more than a few players, especially the so-called founders, are unhappy, even feeling a little bit cheated. For instance, Stage 2's new focus on a single multiplayer mode has meant some features are now removed, which isn't exactly fantastic for anybody who put money into this thing. Others lament how the action-oriented retooling has removed any of the tension and cat-and-mouse angle that made the game unique. None of this has been helped by the fact that so far founder rewards are, well, shit. I mean, you get a fair amount of gun skins, but 3,000 keys is barely enough to buy anything, with characters going for around 5,000 and perks costing about $1,000. The vague vows of future support ring somewhat hollow, since this is, you know, a AAA game that was born of some of AAA's most AAA-iest bullshit. The trust kind of ain't there, and nobody involved tried to even earn it until now. So that's that. If you want my opinion, and I'm gonna fucking presume since you're here, Stage 2 represents a promising future. I can't deny that the changes are noticeable. This was not some quick hotfix, but a genuine effort to make the game more engrossing and involved for all players. Additions like daily rewards and the key system in its entirety are cheap ways to keep players invested, but they're a tried and tested method that ought to keep people on the line. I will not join those who lament the passing of the old game. As far as I'm concerned, Stage 2 does indeed make for a superior experience, but not one I currently see myself glued to. Going free was a daring move that paid off short term, but Turtle Rock can't do the usual thing AAA games do. You know that thing they do. There's a scientific term for it, and that term is fuck all. In fact, they need to move quick. Star Wars Battlefront is Star Wars. It can afford to make season pass holders wait until 2017 for the last bit of fucking DLC, even if it is gross. Evolve must continue to be true to its name, or this little shot in the arm will be nothing more than temporary. Launching it as a beta was a good idea, as it keeps it fresh in our minds that this is an ongoing process, something to continue checking in on. Free-to-play games thrive on the willingness of their developers to continue improving, adding, creating events, and generally supporting them above and beyond. That Turtle Rock is still into Evolve this much a year later, so long after the world stopped caring, is a good sign that it'll do what's required. And what can the wider game industry learn from this? Well, it's hard to know exactly what to take away from this until we get a better long-term picture of whether or not Stage 2 can save Evolve for good, but there are definitely some pertinent points to be gleaned from all this. The most crucial lesson is that maybe if you want your game to launch as an incomplete vector of downloadable content, it'd be worth positioning it as a, I don't know, a free-to-play game to fucking begin with. AAA games publishers have been pushing this games-as-service malarkey for years now. It's their way of spinning the idea of added paid content and constant online requirements as advantages to the player. But because they lack imaginations and spines, publishers have been unable to wrap their heads around the idea of not charging $60 upfront for access. This generation so far has proven to be, in my opinion, a stellar breeding ground for dedicated dedicated multiplayer games. I've never been into multiplayer so much in all my life as I have since the middle of, say, last year. Rainbow Six Siege, Star Wars Battlefront, Plants vs Zombies, Garden Warfare, Battleborn, Overwatch, they all contributed to making me more excited for multiplayer games than I've been since Call of Duty 4 first appeared. However, many of those games have had big issues holding them back, issues mostly stemming from the money-minded side of games that always wants to exploit new and exciting ideas, but constantly tries to force them into old and tired business models. So it is that we've had Evolve, Battlefront and Street Fighter V attempt to market unfinished games with subsequently insulting season passes, and each one of them failing in some way notable enough for the publisher to at least put on a facade of humility. Capcom admitted it underestimated the popularity of the features it didn't launch SF5 with, and had to assure fans that the game was a marathon, not a sprint. EA not only admitted to shareholders that Battlefront was rushed, but spent its Star Wars portion of this year's E3 showcase basically grovelling to fans to give them a second chance. With Evolve going free to play, Turtle Rock has provided the most blatant admission that launching these marathon games as $60 complete packages is, perhaps, a fucking shit idea that breeds contempt, and the pushback from old fans as well as the amount of extra work now required demonstrates that it's no easy thing to reverse your shit contempt breeding idea and turn it into something palatable. Major publishers love the trappings of free-to-play games. They love the fact you don't need to finish the game before launching and can just promise updates. They love the microtransactions providing a steady income from those with more money than time, and they love the psychological beatdown of pressuring customers into playing more and paying more. But they hate the bit that really makes free-to-play games what they are: free. So it is that we have fee-to-pay and early triple access games, $60 retail productions with freemium-style content that launchers cores into which further content is plugged. It's not how it should be, and even when a game sells well, as Battlefront certainly did, it doesn't seem to be worth the bad press and fan disappointment, as EA certainly realised. Evolve Stage 2 is a concept with problems. Founders are understandably feeling shortchanged, fuck knows what's going on with the console versions, and there's going to be a lot of teething trouble as Turtle Rock continues to keep this game alive. However, I am ultimately glad this happened, and that it at least seems to be working for now, because that's a strong message to send, that a AAA game can and perhaps should swallow its damn pride and not expect to charge a premium entry fee just because that's how it's always been done. This sends the message that experiences like the ones 2K Games, EA and Capcom have been trying to offer are not inherently bad ideas, but are packaged completely wrong and need to be looked at through a less traditional lens. That if you want to sell a $60 game, you should fucking make a $60 game, and if you want a free-to-play game, you fucking make it free to play. I hope Evolve does well. Not because I expect the fucking idiots who call the shots at major publishers to learn from its example, but because it'll at least give me another example to beat people around the head with when I need it. And if any shot callers do follow its lead, that'd be nice too. And you know, maybe Turtle Rock deserves a reward for being able to reflect on itself and the mistakes that were made and, you know, working to try and fix it. You just don't see that. Normally, they just throw another sequel out there and tell us to pay for that instead. So, yeah, I hope this does well.
It's not a fucking Rattata, you piece of shit. Come here anyway. There you go. No, I'm not throwing Pokeballs at the back of my fucking Boglin's head, you prick. I'll be in a second. Alright, that'll do. Right, yeah, sorry, soft announcement before we wrap up. I'm going to be in the United Kingdom from September 1st for that first week, and during that first week we are planning, I've got a venue lined up, we are planning Jimquisition Takes London, a live show. If you saw last year's Jimquisition live at the Screw Attack convention, then think that, but with hopefully a lot more planning put into it. No solid details yet because I want to make sure everything's locked in before I 100% set in stone this thing. But that's a soft announcement. Jimquisition Takes London. If you're going to be around the London area in the first week of September, keep me in mind. And if you're not, you can still pitch in by thanking God for me. It's not that hard. Let's do it all together now. Thank God for me. forgot to swap the tracers. That's supposed to be for the Jimquisition extras, and that's meant to be for normal ones. That was going to be a whole visual gag. Fuck it.